My name doesn't matter much anymore. I'm an old man now, 89. My hands shake when I hold a cup, my knees creak when I stand up, and the world I knew, the one filled with mud, fear, gunpowder, and the damned smell of burning steel, that world has mostly disappeared. But there is one night I still remember, one night that never left me. A bridge, a river, 18 men, and the feeling that we were already dead, but we had to fight anyway. If you're willing to listen, then I'll tell you. It was late 1944, cold enough to freeze breath into thin white threads, the kind of cold that crawls under your uniform and stays there. Our captain, John Miller, a man carved out of stubbornness, gathered us near a dying campfire. We were exhausted, hungry, worn thin by weeks of moving through ruined villages, but he unfolded a map anyway. A red line cut across it. Raven Bridge. A place none of us had heard of. A place we weren't supposed to care about. But that night, it became the center of the world. Miller looked up and said quietly, "Gentlemen, if the Germans take that bridge, 2 Allied battalions behind us will be trapped. We're the closest unit. We have to hold it." Someone whispered, "How long?" Miller sighed, "Long enough." We knew what that meant. We knew we were being sent to die, but we didn't argue. Soldiers rarely do. We moved through dark woods, the sky above us heavy with fog. The moon barely shone. Our boots sank into wet leaves. The river below us whispered like something alive. Nobody spoke. Even the Frenchman, Jean Bellamy, usually talkative, stayed silent. We were 18 men, tired, cold, carrying rifles that felt heavier than usual, carrying fear that felt heavier still. Then we saw it. Raven Bridge. A stone arch stretching across a fast-moving river. German lights flickered at the far end. We heard voices, metal, machinery. The enemy was already there. More of them than us. But orders were orders. We crawled onto a hill overlooking the bridge. From up there, the enemy looked small, little shadows moving between sandbags and crates. Captain Miller knelt beside a boulder, spread out the map one more time, and whispered, "Listen carefully. Thomas, Hayes, Brown, you take out the machine gun nest on the right. Jean, you lead your group to the flank. Destroy the artillery. Me and him." He nodded at me. "Keep the center. We hold as long as we can." I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight. Miller looked at all of us, and for a second, his voice softened. "That bridge belongs to us tonight. If we fall, fate can deal with the rest." It wasn't a heroic speech. It wasn't loud, but it hit like a hammer. We checked our weapons, loaded magazines, adjusted straps, and when he whispered, "Go," we moved like shadows. Thomas reached the machine gun nest without a sound. He pulled the pin from a grenade, held his breath. A German soldier turned his head. Too late. The grenade exploded with a violent flash, throwing dirt, fire, and metal into the air. The machine gun flew backward. Someone screamed. A signal flare shot upward, red light painting the sky like blood. Jean's team attacked next. 2 artillery guns, both destroyed in seconds. The explosions echoed across the river valley. The Germans panicked, shouting, scrambling for positions, and we ran down the hill, rifles raised, hearts exploding in our chests. Bullets sliced the air. Stone fragments flew from the bridge. The night turned into chaos. We had started the fight. Now we had to survive it. The bridge became a furnace of smoke and fire. Miller shouted orders, firing in controlled bursts. I covered the center, picking targets in the glare of rising signal flares. Jean jumped over a broken crate, yelling something in French, and took cover behind a collapsed stone. Thomas slid next to me, panting hard. They're regrouping. More coming from the right. I see them. Tracer rounds zipped past us like burning arrows. The Germans were professionals. We could feel it. They weren't shocked for long, but we held the line, inch by inch, foot by foot. The bridge shook beneath us. They came in waves. First a dozen, then 2 dozen, then more in the distance, silhouettes moving through the fog. We threw grenades, fired until our rifles smoked, moved to new positions every few seconds. I saw Hayes fall, hit in the shoulder, saw Brown drag him behind a broken cart, saw Jean reload with bloody hands. We were losing ground, slowly, painfully. And then I heard Captain Miller whisper, "Fall back to the center. They're trying to flank." We moved as one, step by step, retreating but still fighting. The Germans charged across the bridge, shouting, firing, throwing grenades of their own. One landed near us. Miller shoved me behind a stone wall. The blast tore the night open. My ears rang, my vision blurred, and when I looked up, Miller was on the ground. I crawled to him, my hands shaking. "Captain, Captain." Blood ran down his side. He grabbed my sleeve, pulled me closer, his voice barely a breath. "You hold this bridge. You hear me?" "Yes. Yes, sir. Promise me." I nodded, tears mixing with dirt. He smiled, tired, small, and closed his eyes. But the fight wasn't over. Not even close. The enemy pushed harder, more bodies, more weapons. But something inside us changed. It was no longer about orders, no longer about the map, no longer about strategy. It was about him, about keeping his promise. Jean shouted, "For Captain Miller," and the bridge echoed with our answer. We pushed back with everything left inside us. I fired until my rifle jammed, switched to Miller's weapon, fired again. Thomas managed to destroy their last machine gun. Brown returned to the fight despite a bleeding arm. We held the center like men possessed. The river roared below us. The night burned above us. Our fear turned into something else entirely. Determination. And then, just when we thought we couldn't take another second, we heard distant engines, shouts, American voices, reinforcements. The Germans, already exhausted, finally pulled back. Their lines collapsed. They retreated into the fog they came from. We stood there, what was left of us, trembling, dirty, wounded, but alive. The sun rose slowly, painting the river gold, and the bridge, that damned bridge, still stood. That was 80 years ago. Most of the men who stood with me that night are gone now. Some died on that bridge, some later. Some lived long, quiet lives. Me? I still see that river when I close my eyes. Still feel the weight of Miller's last words. Still hear Jean's shout in the smoke. People ask why I remember it so clearly. I tell them because that night, 18 men did the impossible. We weren't heroes. We were just soldiers, doing what had to be done. But we held the bridge, a bridge we were never supposed to hold. And that is why I'm still here to tell the story.